Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Pete, welcome back to Films and Stuff. How are you today?
I am great, Ethan. How are you?
I'm super. We had a busy week. We had to go see Babylon in cinemas.
That's right. It finally came out. Now, for some of our U.S. listeners, you might be surprised. This is coming a little late. Babylon was released at the tail end of December, if I recall correctly, in the United States. However, international release was not until this last week in, well, the rest of the world, actually. Or at least where we are. So I was finally able to watch Babylon. I saw it 2 days ago, 3 days ago, something like that.
Yeah, we saw it Friday night, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We both saw it Friday night.
Yeah. So let's start with our usual, how was the film experience for you, or the cinema experience for you?
So let me preface it by saying, I'm not sure if this is a blockbuster or not. I originally thought it was, because when we had our segment at the end of 2022, we were talking about what we were looking forward to in 2023. And you specifically and emphatically highlighted Babylon as this Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Damien Chezelle, pick that was coming out. And I'm like, whoa, this isn't even on my radar. I should be aware of this. You're like, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be epic. It's being talked about for, awards right away. So I thought this was like big. And then I saw the trailer and I was convinced it was big. So I was really, really expecting like proper popcorn Hollywood movie. And I went to a cinema on a Friday night and it was quite busy. It wasn't sold out. But it was more than just, like a few scattered people here and there. Like it was definitely 75, 80% full. And then the film happened. How did you tell me about your experience? Then let's talk about the film itself. What was your experience? Like, how did you go into this thing? The same way or differently?
I went in excited for a couple of reasons, right? So first of all, it's a movie that's set in, 1920s Prohibition era style Hollywood. Yep. I love that time period. So it's one of the few period pieces that I like. I like old school Hollywood. And when I say old school Hollywood, I really mean old school California. I like that feel. We were talking about this offline. Films like LA Confidential, the rise of not just Hollywood, but the rise of California, Southern California specifically. Yeah. I really like that. And even though this is a totally different timeline, movies like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I also like, again, because of the location and because of the feel of the time. It gave you the feeling that there's something truly magical about Hollywood and about film production and all of that. So I loved it. I liked. So on that aspect, I liked. Second aspect that had me kind of pumped and excited was Damien Chezelle. Most famous for, I think most people will remember him for the Oscar win with La La Land.
So young. I actually, then.
Yeah, but for me, I actually think of Damien Chezelle not so much for La La Land, because La La Land as a movie, while I recognize it was phenomenal, did nothing for me. I loved him for his work with Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. Which to date stands as one of my, I hesitate to say top 10 movies, but if it were on my top 10 list, I wouldn't say no to it. It is a fantastic
movie. Kick it out.
Yeah. So that's it. And then, of course, star power, Margot Robbie or Robbie. You've got Brad Pitt. You've got a
Diego Calva.
You've got a pretty strong cast who are kind of like, when you think of old school Hollywood and, old school masculinity, old school Hollywood attractiveness, you think of Brad Pitt, you think of George Clooney, you think of these guys. So that way it fit perfectly. You think of Margot Robbie in terms of pure appearance, fits this genre to a T.
Yep.
So I had very high hopes going into it. The cinema was dead. Dead as in like hardly anybody in there.
No way.
Hardly anybody in there. I saw somebody leave.
On a Friday.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Well, yeah, and we'll get to that. So certainly shocking, but understandable. So spoiler alert.
Understandable.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. This was not for me. It hit all the right boxes.
Tell me why. Because it hits a lot of the boxes, right?
It ticks a lot of the boxes. So again, it's a period piece set in Prohibition era Hollywood, and it's really during the peak and then the subsequent fall of silent movies and the transition toward the so-called talkies, right?
Right.
And we can even see that Margot Robbie is like struggling with the talkies aspect of it. Pitt is a film star. Robbie is basically not, but she's trying to blag her way or trying to, connive and scheme her way into Hollywood, which she successfully does. She's very outlandish. She's very, I don't want to say brutish because that has a very negative connotation, but she's very aggressive. Again, all of these things sound negative, but I don't mean them to be negative. I can't think of the appropriate word in the sense that
it's the blessing and the curse. It's her extreme.
Let's say self-confidence.
Yeah, it's her extreme self-confidence and wild child, behavior that gets her noticed and gets
very
her
extroverted.
Job. Yes, but that same personality and those same behaviors that get her noticed also are her downfall, right?
Exactly, right? So she successfully gets in, but all of those behaviors, all of that attitude and let's say overconfidence and overweening pride in herself causes her to also self-sabotage throughout the entire film, right?
Yeah.
And then the third, I'd say the third aspect of the main characters, I think if you consider this a tripod where you have Brad Pitt as one, Margot Robbie as the second, and the third undoubtedly is Manny. What's his name? Calva?
Diego Calva.
Playing Manny, this, I guess, Mexican fixer of sorts. Let's call it that, right? He starts off as kind of like a fixer. He helps you get things that you need when you can't. So like we open up that scene with the elephant where he's procuring an elephant for a private party and that sort of thing. And then he helps remove, incriminating evidence for people. He's what we would call in Hollywood or in a law firm, the fixer. He does things Clayton. Exactly. That things that people can't do, he gets them out of it.
Yep.
So the film follows the three of these actors, or by actors I mean people in the show, or these protagonists, throughout the course of the film, which takes place over like 6-10 years. Brad Pitt is incredibly charismatic, and he's got the mannerisms to fit what I envision actors of that era were like, as does Margot Robbie. And for me, Manny was definitely the underdog, and that's why I think he anchored the film. Like, he was the most down-to-earth out of all of them. Like, he's the guy who just kind of knuckled down and did the work, He wasn't... He wasn't fooled by the excess of Hollywood sort of thing. So all of those things are good. Now, I have to caveat, one of the things I had a problem with was Margot Robbie.
The vulgarity?
So, it's not that. I think what it is, and this is my problem. This is maybe not indicative of the movie, because in the movie, I think it's exactly what she needed to bring. But Margot Robbie brings this manic energy to the role, right? I think we can see that from the moment we see her in the first scene. And something that she seems to be doing a lot of in her past few films, most noticeably and most maybe, let's say, outwardly evident in the Suicide Squad movies.
Yeah, Harley Quinn.
And something about that energy just feels off to me personally. It's gotten tiresome. And I think, I've tried to do a little bit of like my own looking inwards, being introspective. I think it's because I'm allowing my negative feelings of her as Harley Quinn to bleed into the other movies.
I hate those Harley Quinn movies, by the way.
I just don't like this new rendition of Harley Quinn, and I certainly don't. And this has nothing to do with Margot Robbie. This is the character of Harley Quinn that I have a problem with.
Yeah.
She comes off as like this methed out, coked up, drug addled, like
just bad
rave.
All the time.
Yeah,
bad
like this
all the time.
She's like she belongs in. She's trying to fit into some like 90s era rave in some warehouse in the Waterside district. It's not
too much.
It's too much, and I know she's a very good actor. We saw her. She was excellent in Wolf of Wall Street. It's all of these movies. She's excellent, but I think that energy. Anytime I see that energy, especially from her, I immediately think of Harley Quinn, and I'm out. Like I don't like it. It rubs me the wrong way. I know that is a Pete problem. That is not a Babylon problem or a Margot Robbie problem. I still am very much looking forward to seeing her as Barbie in the Barbie movie. But if she has any of that energy and attitude in the Barbie movie, I'm out. Because, Barbie is not supposed to be anything like that.
I mean, I have to say there's let's talk about Margot Robbie a little bit before we get into things. But I have to say, like, lately the films that she's doing, I think are actually like minimizing her talent. The Harley Quinn movies and now this one, I mean, she's just, and even to be honest, Wolf of Wall Street, she's just become kind of like a parody of herself where she's this beautiful, uncontrollable, kind of psychopathic, because she's got like this terrible back history or something, like, woman. I feel like she's not even doing herself justice for her acting ability by taking on these like super like vulgar, even more and more outrageous roles, right? And I'm not sure if that's because she's actually pretty good at them, but I don't know if she is trying to be not typecast as the same type of like, beautiful blonde, arm candy girlfriend that everybody sees her as, but then you shouldn't take the Barbie role. Or if this is all she's able to get, but I have to say, like, I feel like her talent is being absolutely wasted on roles like this. And there's a version of the universe where her character, right, Nellie Leroy in Babylon is a great character, and it goes from being this kind of like very bold, ostentatious, girl who comes from nothing, who's determined to make it, who does have a very sympathetic backstory, to someone through like sheer will, works herself into, being a very respected, Hollywood starlet. That would be a more compelling story. Someone who takes advantage of the opportunity with the talkies, someone who takes advantage of her, ability to like network and be noticed so well, and obviously great acting skills where she can cry on command. There's a beautiful story in there, but instead it's just ruined where she can't control her drugs, can't control her gambling, can't control this, keeps getting into trouble, doesn't care about anybody around her. And then we see the headline where she dies at age 34, I guess, of an overdose. So, I mean, there's a better version of this story, I think, than the one that we were fed.
And if you're insistent on having the downfall of Nellie Leroy, which is fine, then another way to do this to show some character growth is that she's now become this respectable actress. Everyone knows her and likes her. And then in her next movie, all of a sudden, there's another new young starlet, 18 years old, who's brash and has the same energy she had, and she blags her way onto the movie, and then all of a sudden she's getting pushed aside for this new one, and it's kind of like she transitions from a young brash person to respected actress, and then kind of pushed to the side because someone younger and newer has come in. That's another way Pete, they could have gone with this.
Oh my God. Pete, I love it when you share my brain, because that's exactly what I think this movie missed. So I think we're getting to the same place. there's a lot of amazing elements about this movie, right? I mean, for sure, the cinematography, the music, right? The score, the design, the performances, all probably Academy Award worthy. The problem for me is the story and the point of the story and the plot that seems to like just be aimless. And it would have been so cool if you could have shown something that's like, because this is trying to be, I feel like, some type of commentary on Hollywood.
Oh.
And as you just mentioned, it would have been great to show like, look, no one lasts forever. You're always being replaced. And show how Brad Pitt took over for someone else and then he got replaced. Margot Robbie took over for someone else. She got replaced. And even show who's what is her name? The gossip columnist, Eleanor St. John.
Jean Smart, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
Jean Smart. First, she, took over for someone and she did everything on a typewriter. And then when it came to like radio or television or something, then she got replaced. And just show like, look, Hollywood is this insatiable beast.
Machine that just
it's
churns out people. Yeah.
Exactly right. And show everyone's rise and fall and show how they were once brash and on top of the world and indestructible, and then they lost everything. Then I feel a very, very compelling, emotional movie. But this thing I just felt was going in so many different directions, and I'm not sure what I meant to take from it.
Look, I agree with you. So first of all, I think you and I do share a brain because that was my fourth point. Because my fourth point was something about this movie seems to scream a message that's specific that's meant for specific people. But the problem is too many messages and not sure what it is. Because on one hand, it means
too many mysteries, not enough solutions.
Yeah, right. You remember when Brad Pitt speaks to that reporter. He's saying, hey, look, you don't get it. You're just a writer. You're just a critic, but you don't understand. Being up on that screen means something. It's important to millions of people. It's kind of like, and look, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe it's too subtle. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But it screamed to me that it was Damien Chezelle and the company and the writers saying, hey, critics, back off. Okay. This movie and all Hollywood movies are about, more than just this and that. And, you can't give us this much criticism and so forth.
Yeah.
And another scene, and in another scene where he's talking to his new wife, he goes, you don't know what it means to be an actor. You're just a cockroach, right? Because he's talking to her about how she's on Broadway. You're on Broadway and you sell 100,000 tickets. It's a smash hit. I sell 100,000 tickets and it's the biggest flop of the year. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I admit that I could be reading too much into it, but it just seems like a lot of it was, this is the message we're trying to send with this movie, but then what we're showing you on screen is a totally different message. Is this message?
Yeah. Sorry, I just interrupted you. This message is coming from the wrong person. Damien Chezelle, who's the youngest winner of an Academy Award as a director, right? Like, this is not the message from him. This is like something you would see in like the original Rocky, right? Where Sylvester Stallone was reading out his famous own words, saying like, no one believes in me, but I can do it. Yeah. This would be fine if it was a director who had, been sucking it up with all these independent pieces for 40 years, and finally he got his moment in the sun, and he was delivering a message. Or
this on the flip side,
accomplished guy.
If this comes from an actor, for example, like Brendan Fraser, who was Hollywood's it guy, and then was thrown into the dumps because of the allegations of sexual abuse, and now he's made his comeback, and he says that, hey, this is Hollywood. It's a machine. They're in it I go in on one end. Hollywood extracts my entire life force out of me, and without a care for me, dumps me on the other side of the machine, right? And that's what Hollywood's interested in. It's not interested in making sure that I'm okay when I come out of the machine. It's only interested in getting as much out of me as is profitable for them After that, they couldn't give two craps about me. And that's what I thought the message of the movie was going to be. Really, I thought that's what it was, right? But it kind of is, it kind of isn't, which is fine until the last 10 minutes where we see Manny come back 25 years later to Hollywood and, goes to see a new movie and it's Singing in the Rain, and he sees that, the movies have transitioned to talkies, and he sees that in the movie they're talking about the things that they used to talk about when, they were talking about transitioning from silent movies to talkies. And then there was that weird montage / vignette or whatever it's called of like Hollywood, different movies in Hollywood up until present day, including like, The Matrix and all those other things. And I was just like, look, maybe it was because this is a really long movie, but by that time I didn't understand what was going on there.
Can I say that could have been okay. Actually, if they would have paired that with a great score, and they would have shown some really, really iconic. I can't remember who the production company is. Is it Universal?
Kinescope.
Yeah. No, Kinescope is not the fake name though, right? Like, who's the real one? Is it Universal?
Universal. I'm pretty sure it's Universal.
If they would have taken some of the most iconic like snippets from Universal, and they would have done a
Warner
montage,
Brothers, but yeah, whatever. Yeah,
I would have been like, honestly, I would have cried. I absolutely would have cried. The problem was, it seemed to not go in chronological order. I didn't really see any iconic scenes. Like, they showed The Matrix, but they should have shown like Neo like bending over, dodging the bullet or something.
Right, right.
They could have shown iconic scenes. But the worst part was, it seemed to be a montage of scenes, and then someone dumped their paint colors into water, and it got like all these weird like color bursts like underwater. I'm like, this is turned into like a some type of like different
almost
thing.
Like this nouveau art piece that didn't make sense. And that was, it just came out, it came
wrong.
Here's the problem, okay? Incredibly long movie. 3 minutes shorter than Avatar, which says a lot, right?
Long.
So for a period piece like this, that is a hard sell. That is a hard sell to sit in the cinema for 3 hours and really focus on that. 2, I think that it came off as a really like this. You know how when you see those like, when you go to a museum and you just see like a banana duct taped to a wall, and that's what the artist came off with, and you're just like, that was a $300 million painting that just sold, and you're just like, what the hell are you talking about? It came off as that. It looks like, to me, it felt like a really self-indulgent look at Hollywood and the industry overall. Yeah. Along the same veins, although executed much worse than La La Land, right? It didn't have any of the emotional resonance of La La Land, but it felt like a self-gratification look at, oh, look at us. Our industry is great. We are fantastic. We are perfect. And, that meta look at how cinema has changed towards the end, it didn't fit for me with what they were trying to say for exactly the same reasons you're saying, which is, what's the message you're trying to send? Is your message that Hollywood is a machine? Or is your message that Hollywood is going to change no matter what? Or is your message that Hollywood is incredibly important to the people? What is it? And
or is it like I agree. I totally agree.
Didn't get it.
I'm not sure what the message was. Yeah.
I walked away. Yeah.
I was going to say, the message I kind of wanted them to say was, look, we are an industry. We are brutally focused on making money. But at our core, we like to bring joy to people. And that shouldn't be lost, all the happiness that we've brought, And if that would have been what they tried to do, it would have been a very self-indulgent experience, but at least it would have had a point. And here I was really bothered by some of the things that they kind of explored, like the Sidney Palmer experience, you know?
Yeah.
The trumpet player.
The trumpet player.
Like,
I didn't get that.
That was so unappealing how they portrayed his experience. I was like revolted by it, but I'm not sure what the point was supposed to be. Like, I just don't understand. The Tobey Maguire, scene was so unnecessary in the context of this. It could have been they went to his house, they tried to pay him off, he realized it was counterfeit money, they were going to kill Manny, Manny escaped. That was the point. Manny had to leave Los Angeles. But the way that they did it was like absolutely unnecessary to go into this pit and this dude eating the rat and the blah, 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 the alligator, like it unnecessary.
The whole thing was just, look, the way I came off of it was that it seemed, the movie basically just seems to highlight the debauchery of Hollywood, which is probably true. I'm not saying that it's not, but when you have a lot of these highly attractive men, women, who are at their core, probably leaning heavily towards narcissism, who are extremely well paid, and then on top of that, who are never said no to, like nobody ever says no, then yes, of course there's a level of debauchery that's going to happen, and of course there's a level of moral corruption that's going to happen. And
I didn't even see
But if that's
though.
not what the message of the movie is, then we don't need to see it. Because ultimately it just comes off as kind of gross. It comes off as off-putting. And it looks like, it sounds like it could be something fun to watch, but it's not. And it's not interesting either.
I agree. I felt there were so many, can I just tell you some of the loose ends I felt were not addressed? Lady Faye, right?
Yeah.
The Asian, I guess she was kind of like a writer or something. Her role was never explained. I'm not sure what the point was. Was she just a friend of Brad Pitt?
She was a friend, and then she was potentially a love interest for Margot Robbie. And then she basically had to leave, so she took up her job in Europe.
Yeah.
So she was that singer and cabaret dancer, and then she ends up doing. She was also, in the talkies, they had, in the silent films, they had the writing in between scenes, right?
Yeah.
The placard. So she also did that. Yeah, but I get it. Her plot line felt a little thin.
It felt like she was featured in important ways, but then not given anything. Sidney Palmer, that whole thing didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a beautiful story where Manny discovered him and gave him a chance. Then they had a very ugly scene that was beyond racist, and then he left.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of that. The Tobey Maguire scene, love seeing Spider-Man back again. Horrible, and he played that role very well as a creepy dude, but a totally unnecessary for them to go into this crazy nightclub. I just felt like there were just so many little things that they should have cut entirely, and they could have made this a 2.5-hour movie, and they could have structured it a little bit better, and then I'd be like, what a great film. I understand the point. They tried to explain this. They tried to justify this. You saw all these, character arcs, and wow, that was emotional. But I didn't feel any of that. I just walked out of there. I was kind of I'm confused. Who should I like? Who should I not like? We saw 2 suicides. What should I take from this?
Yeah. I think that with 1 or 2 more pass-throughs with an editor and in the cutting room, you could probably come out with a more coherent. Look, I don't mean to say that this movie isn't coherent. I just think that it's got one or two messages too many, or one or two plot elements too many that don't need to be there.
It's not tight. It's not tight. It goes in. You're right. It goes in too many other directions, and it's super disappointing because I thought I was going to love it after the first kind of like scene or two. I thought I was going to love this movie.
Yeah, the Palmer subplot that did nothing for me. It ended up basically going nowhere, except for, he, I guess, goes to become a trumpet player in Texas somewhere, and that's it. And it just felt like such a sad wah-wah for his role. Yeah. Right? It could have been something more, right? It could have been the Mexican guy who's now a new junior studio executive teams up with the African-American guy who both minorities in Hollywood, and they team up together to become a power couple. And then because of the Hollywood system of racism, they're both suppressed one way or another. Yeah. I don't know. But I just, there could have been more with that. But I think they just kind of dropped the ball with that. I think it was, I had higher hopes for it. And I think, and we should talk about this now. I think this is probably why it was a box office bust, right?
It was a box office. I've read it is at like 30 million. Is that right?
It's at just under 30 million as of last weekend. We haven't got this weekend's numbers, against a production budget of 110 million. And we don't know what their promotions and advertising budget is.
Pete, let me ask you something straight up. Is Brad Pitt a real life Jack Conrad? I mean, are the days when Brad Pitt is an A-list name. Before this, he was in Bullet Train. Tell me, is he just, maybe he's a supporting actor and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood kind of stuff, but like, is he just past it?
No, I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood showed that he still got it.
Okay, what other piece of evidence do you give me though? Bullet Train?
Yeah, but Bullet Train was like a small movie. It's almost, I'm not saying it was an independent film, but I think that was their version of, if this is a smash hit, this can become a franchise. So let's not spend too much money on it. Let's make it a little stylish. And that's it. I think that was I'm not calling it their John Wick moment, but I think that's what their goal was let's not make it a fancy pants movie. Let's see if there's something there. We have enough star power. I, for example, liked Bullet Train. I didn't think it was amazing. I didn't think it was a must-watch in cinema. But in terms of style, in terms of look, in terms of humor, it appealed to me. But that's it. I look at Brad Pitt as, first of all, he's older now. So the kinds of roles he used to do, he can't do anymore in terms of demographics. I think he's been replaced by other actors in that genre. But, I think if you look at him in something like the Ocean series, if you look at him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, all of that, he's still got it. He's very much still an A-list star. I heard or I read somewhere that he's doing another movie with George Clooney, which will, both of them have charisma through the roof. So I expect that, if there's any element of humor between the two of them, the chemistry is so good. I would hope that it would be very successful for both of them.
Let me pose this hypothetical. If that next movie bombs, would you revisit your answer?
Yeah, I would be forced to. Yeah, I wouldn't like it because I really like
this is kind of the make or break, right? Like, if
I don't know if I could say it's a make or break, but yes, I agree with you. It would become a question. It would become a serious question to say, does he still have it? I think he's at that stage in his career now where he needs to be careful with what roles he picks. Because if the movie doesn't take off, then you start questioning the legitimacy of his A-list status, and that's a problem.
Yeah. He's always going to be an A-list name. I don't think that's going to change. I just don't think that he's going to be an A-list actor where he's going to be in demand. Like, hey, we need someone to play this character. Let's get Brad Pitt. Because that's kind of how it works now.
Someone who can carry the movie.
Yeah, now they're going to say like, okay, we've got this very specific character. Oh, Brad could do that. It's not like we need a role for Brad. You know?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I think of someone like Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah, he's not just A-list, but he can carry movies. I would have definitely said that about Brad Pitt, but I think we need to see one or two more good things from him.
Yeah, I don't know. This was really a bomb. I mean, this is really a bomb. 30 million. I mean,
yeah, terrible. Really terrible.
I mean, considering the star power in this thing, and
not just the
considering
star
when
power,
it came out, I mean, it's not competing against anything.
Well, Avatar. It was competing against Avatar. But fundamentally different genre. So theoretically, it should have done. I mean, it's still hard to say. Look, again, it's hard to do anything against Avatar. I'm just surprised.
Maybe.
You know, it's not made a lot of money. I think it's because. So I'll give you. So going back to my earlier example, L.A. Confidential, also a relatively long movie. But it was tight in the sense that there was a definitive plot. You knew what there was. There wasn't a message per se. It was just a mystery as to who's involved, why they're involved, what's going on. It was your classical noir film set in the 1920s of Hollywood, California, Southern California. It was just, in that way, very tightly done, even though it was a relatively long movie, if I remember correctly. I don't hold me to that, but yeah. So it was, I think that's I don't want to call it the yardstick, but that's kind of it, is ultimately the length of the movie only comes into play if it's super long and if there's no message or if there's no clear, direction. And I felt like this movie didn't have a clear direction. I walked out of the cinema going, what was the plot? What was the point of this plot?
Who do you think is more A-list right now than Brad Pitt? Tom Cruise? Hanks? Chris?
Hanks for sure.
Any of the Chris's?
I'm skeptical about
Leonardo?
the Chris's, by the way. Leonardo,
Tom Hardy?
100%. Maybe Matt Damon? And then, of
Hugh
course,
Jackman?
I don't know, man. Hugh Jackman's great, but it's hard to see him as like. What was the last major good dramatic role you saw him in that you really loved him in?
Yeah.
I think what we're doing is looking at it the wrong way. He is an A-list actor, but I think we're talking about like at the top 1% of the 1%, right? And at that level, I think there are very few. Tom Hanks for certain, Leonardo DiCaprio for certain, potentially Matt Damon, George Clooney probably.
Let's say Robert Downey Jr. is in this role instead of Brad Pitt. Does it do better, worse, or the same?
I think it does worse. I don't think this is a Downey-style movie. If you look at the two of them, and when you think of like old-fashioned Hollywood actor, I think of Brad Pitt. I don't think of Robert Downey Jr. I think he looks like his face has been chiseled out of a rock. He looks old-fashioned handsome. I'm not saying Robert Downey Jr. isn't a good-looking man. They're all handsome, but I just think like when you think of that era, the Clark Gable, the Rat Pack era, I'm thinking of Brad Pitt. I'm thinking of George Clooney. I'm not thinking of Robert Downey Jr.
I mean, I agree with you. I guess what I'm concerned, or I guess the point I'm trying to get at is that Brad Pitt, to me, is still a big name. And I thought he played this role very, very well. I thought he was likable. I was sad when he took his life at the end.
Yeah.
But by virtue of the fact that this movie has done so miserable, that must be some type of commentary on him, right?
Or at least the film choice.
Right? Is it the review? I mean, this should have been okay, fine. No one's going to say this is $1 billion movie, right? It's not a superhero movie, but
on paper, it had all the elements of a huge success.
30 is pretty miserable, right? And it wasn't that the reviews were so bad, right? There's still some kind of Oscar buzz. It's still going to be nominated. It still may win some stuff, right?
Yeah, but I think Oscar buzz also because of the type of movie it is, which is like the self-glamorization of Hollywood. I think those kinds of movies always do very well. Anytime you make a movie that glamorizes the Hollywood glitz and glamour and, lifestyle, Hollywood's always happy to promote that movie.
Yeah.
Look, long story short,
yeah.
The way I felt about it when I saw it on Friday, the way I feel about it now is this. At best, this is a mooch, but genuinely speaking, when I walked out of the cinema, I said I could have skipped that.
Yeah.
That, I think, is the problem, is that I'm between a skip and a mooch, I'm leaning towards a skip, which is why it's a skip for me.
I mean, I have to say it's absolutely a skip for me. I mean, if someone were to ask me, I'd say definitely don't need to see this in the cinema. I'd say go see the Guy Ritchie film instead. If you haven't seen Avatar, definitely see Avatar instead. So that's 2 movies I'm putting over it right now. And if it comes out on video and you're able to watch it, go ahead. But don't feel like you're going to be missing anything if you don't see this movie. That's the definition of a skip. It really pains me to say that because I had very high hopes and I thought the trailer indicated to me this was going to really be something. And it turned out to be a lot of different movies just kind of somehow stitched together. And again, I think that was the biggest issue is that when I walk out of the cinema, I want a really clear emotion. I want happiness. I want sadness. I want regret. I want wistfulness. I want something that the whole message of this movie is that Hollywood makes you care, brings emotions. When I left this movie, I was more just disappointed and confused by especially the ending where they mucked up the montage and they added all this film art. The watercolors I thought was just horrible. I was really shocked that with all the testing they must have done, not a single person in the audience raised their hand and said what is this? This is miserable. And they said, you got to cut that out. We'll do a montage, fine. We'll do just Space Jam 2. We'll do an ode to Warner or whoever, did this film. Let's definitely do a really cool montage and blow our own horn. But take all the paint colors out. I'm really shocked that they kept that in.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure where that bad judgment comes from. I mean, unless this is intended only for the Academy and they think the Academy is going to like that. They're like, we don't care about our audience. We just want the award. Maybe. But I still don't think that was a very good. Maybe that's a better intro, the James Bond style intro, but it was a very, very bad montage at the end.
Yeah. I agree. But look, it's a shame, but, it's still January, or for a few more days anyway. There is a lot coming up in the next couple of months.
What's the big thing we've got to see now?
Well, so on Netflix, Eddie Murphy's latest movie just dropped. You People. Eddie Murphy and Jonah Hill. Comedy. Okay. So that's something we can watch quite simply. Yeah. I'm still looking to find Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's so weird. I don't know
playing in
what.
London? It's a Guy Ritchie film. How can it not play in London?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. But I saw a screen time in a random cinema across town for one showing in the day, and then it's gone. I don't exactly know what's going on. I don't know if it's still in limited release, if it's in wide release, but basically it's been delayed or something. By hook or by crook, I will find a way to watch it because it's something I'm desperately keen on watching. I like Guy Ritchie movies in general. I like action comedies in general. This could be funny, so I'm looking forward to it. But, so that's next on my plate possibly. A Man Called Otto just got released also, I think, last week. Tom Hanks' latest movie.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
I know about this movie. Yes, I want to see that.
So, yeah, and I haven't been able to sit down and go to the cinema to watch that as well, but I will certainly make time for that. Then in terms of next, in 2 weeks' time, we've got Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, I cannot wait for Ant-Man Quantumania.
Yeah, so that's on the 17th. If there's an early showing, I will try to get to that, and then we can discuss it that weekend.
Oh man, looking forward to that. Let's definitely try to find the Guy Ritchie film. If you can find it in London, it's definitely playing in Dubai. And we'll check out some of the Netflix stuff. And of course, for the listeners who follow us religiously, we do have Stream or Skip every week.
Yep. And then, by the way, and next week we will also release our end of year, let's call it the streamies, the Films and Stuff streamies, where we go through, we are going to break down the streaming platforms in terms of their cost. We're going to break down some of the highlights from each of the platforms. We're going to tell you that based on our reviews, which platform was the best, or let's say, maybe best what value. We'll say is call it like the best value, right? Exactly. Yeah. That should help, if you're looking for a new streaming platform, or, you're sick and tired of Netflix and you want to try something different, maybe we'll have something to recommend to you.
We love recommendations.
Perfect. So in the meantime, if you have any recommendations, or if you have any thoughts about Babylon, we'd love to hear from you. Like this video, drop us a comment, subscribe to our channel, send us an email, aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com. Tweet at us at F&S Podcast, or, send us a note on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast.
We love likes, we love notes, we love direct messages, and email.
Looking forward to hearing from all of you, but until then, we'll see you next week. Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Pete. Very enjoyable episode. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.